Example 10 says we have an order for atropine 0.8 milligrams IV. And available, it comes 0.4 milligrams per milliliter, but your directions say to dilute it in up to 10 milliliters of normal saline. The nurse adds enough normal saline to the prepared medication to make 5 milliliters. Inject 1 milligram or less over 1 minute. Okay, so first of all, this dilution was throwing me a little bit. Directions said to dilute in up to 10 milliliters. So the maximum that we could dilute it to is 10 milliliters. The nurse chose to dilute it to make 5 milliliters. Okay, so that was throwing me why they didn't follow those directions, but they did. Okay, it was to dilute it in up to 10 milliliters. That was a maximum, but they didn't have to go all the way to 10 milliliters. Our nurse chose to go just to 5 milliliters, and that's okay. All right, so moving on with the problem. We said to inject 1 milligram or less over 1 minute. Well, part A, and there's another page of this too. This is one that goes on and on forever. What is the total amount of prepared medication in milliliters? Okay, you have one on the homework like this, I think. Homework or quiz, something, where it asks each and every little individual question. So it's eventually going to ask, what is how many milliliters per minute do you do, and how many seconds per calibration do you do? It's going to make you figure it both ways. Okay. So the total amount of prepared medication in milliliters. So how many milliliters of drugs are they getting here? That goes back to milliliter per dose. I got to figure out how much to pull up in that syringe. All right. Well, they did tell us up here in the available that 0.4 milligrams is in 1 milliliter. We need to put the 1 milliliter on top because that was our desired answer. So 1 milliliter is 0.4 milligrams, and our milligram is in the bottom, so that means we need milligram at the top, and that comes from our order. All right, 0.8 milligrams, and I'm going to put that over the word dose, okay, just so that our desired answer, milliliter per dose, does get to happen here. All right, so multiply and divide. We should get 2, okay? So 2 milliliters is going to contain our 0.8 milligrams. Now, part B, what is the total amount of diluted medication in milliliters? So remember we said that the nurse adds enough normal saline to the prepared medication in order to make 5 milliliters. Okay, that is our answer for part B, is 5 milliliters. So of that 5 milliliters, 2 milliliters is medication. The other 3 is normal saline. Does that make sense? But the total amount of diluted medication is 5 milliliters. 2 is medication, 3 is normal saline, for a total of 5. Part C is asking how many minutes is it going to take to give this medication? Well, it did say to inject 1 milligram or less over 1 minute. Okay, so I'm not going back to the milliliters. It's the milligram. How many milligrams are we given? Well, the order said to give 0.8 milligrams, okay, which is less than 1 milligram. So it should take 1 minute. Okay, so part C, the total minutes to administer the medication should take 1 minute because we had less than 1 milligram of medication that we are giving. Okay, so write those down. Pause it if you need to. The next slide is going to wipe all this away. Part D. Part D wants to know, what is your milliliter per minute to be administered? Well, backtracking, we said we have to give 5 milliliters in that syringe. Again, only 2 of it's medication, but 5 milliliters in that syringe, and it should take 1 minute. Okay, so milliliter per minute means that we're going to take our milliliters and divide it by our minute. So we get 5 milliliter per minute. Okay, so that means you need to get through the whole 5 milliliters in 1 minute. All right. That was method 1, right? Calculate the milliliter per minute. Now, the second method is going to ask for seconds per calibration. Well, we need to figure out how many calibrations we have, and we need to figure out how many seconds it's going to take. Well, how many calibrations? We said it's going to be 5 milliliters of of fluid, right? Some medication, some diluent, but 5 milliliters that we're going to give our patient. So how many calibrations are between 0 and 5? And I'm not just talking about the big ones, I'm talking about the little ones too. So between 0 and 5, there should be 25 calibrations. How many seconds is it going to take to administer? Well, we said that 1 milligram or less needs to take 1 minute, right? So 1 minute, we need to convert it into seconds. Well, that's 60. So seconds per calibration. This is where we divide our 60 seconds by 25 calibrations. Be sure and put seconds first. Okay, that's how it's lined up, is seconds per means divide, calibration. So seconds divided by calibrations. So be sure and do the 60 divided by 25, not 25 divided by 60. All right, so it should come out to be 2.4 seconds per calibration. Okay, so every almost 2.5 seconds, you should be on that next little calibration marking.